So, we're now in my dark room, and I'm going to talk about the wet side and the dry side. So here we're at the dry side of my space. So we've got a long, narrow building. So we had to do it, the width is no more than 12 and a half feet. So what we did is we took the 100 feet of length and we just split it right down the middle. So everything on this side right here is all dry work. So what you see here is a Strosser register punch system. We have Rubylith, which we use for small prints, for blocking out light. We have big rolls of Rubylith down here for doing big 30-40 prints. So the idea with registration work, which I specialize in, is that you punch the film, the paper, and the ruby, and then they all become one package and they create your image. So we use a lot of Rubylith, a lot of Strosser punch system. Timers are always helpful in my darkroom. Storage down below is very critical because you need space. So this is just an area where we do the prepping for punching. So I'm a big fan of these big metal shelving units which can raise up and down because they're modular for both the dry side and the wet side. And you'll see the wet side eventually. But this is a solid piece of granite that we got, and it's like 600-700 pounds, and it's a beautiful surface to work on. So we spread things out. We always have a rotary trimmer we use. I've had this one now for 31 years. I don't give up on equipment. I love good equipment, and a roto trimmer is a really good piece of equipment to have in your space. You can't have enough rulers, steel rulers. I hate these ones that start 0 right here, but that's just me. I prefer them to start right at the end, solid, but you need a few of these around for measurement. A radio or a music system, critical. And I say that seriously because if you're spending your whole life in a dark room or a dim room, now I do both, you want to be comfortable. You want your space comfortable. You want good lighting. It's a bit low here, but I'm only 4'6" tall, so it doesn't matter, right? The radio, I have a playlist of 1,000, 1,500 songs, so I just plug it in and just start going ahead. Another key component is having space underneath, but if you can find one of these drawers, this is a metal drawer system. It's perfect for holding material. So I keep my Hahnemühle paper down here, so I bring the rolls of paper in, I soak them and pre-shrink them, cut them down to basic sizes that I like, and they go in here, and they're always ready to go. So that's a very nice setup. Luckily, it fitted exactly between the 2 points. It's a nice system. It's very solid, and will last for the rest of my lifetime. I'll never have to think again about this kind of desktop. Okay, so once again, part of the dry side is film stripping, and film stripping is something I did back in the 1980s, and it's funny. I swore I would never do film stripping again in my life. I used to do photocomp back in the 80s, and it was working on light boxes, Strosser punch systems. In fact, this is the table I had at BGM Color Labs in 1983. They gave this to me. So I've kept some of the equipment from that wonderful lab. It was a huge photocomp specialty lab in the 80s. There was over 240 employees. I worked in that lab in the repro department. So I learned all about this, and now fast forward, from 1983 till almost 2023, almost, it's quite a step, but I'm now doing the same kind of work. So this is a a film stripping table. You don't need this in your home darkroom, but if you're setting up to do shows all the time, this is really valuable because I do up to 30 by 40 inch stripping. So this is a 40 by 50 stripping table. The glass is plate glass. You can use razor blades on it to clean the gunk that gets on it. It's a real nice piece of equipment. Very cumbersome to get into your home. If you're trying to get it in the basement, forget about it. You're not going to do that. So basically, what we do is we have an image. We send the image to an inkjet printer. It's all separated out, and we end up with 4 layers. I mean, I'm starting to do a 4-layer job for Brendan Meadows, and this is the first layer. It's the palladium layer. So I use the punch, which we saw back in the back, to punch the main negative, which is the palladium. Then we put the negative on the registration pins that are here. And they're round and oblong, which allows the film to move out. It should never be round, round, round. So paper clip, those things are no good for registration. Maybe for small 8 by 10 prints, but for big film, not a chance. So what you do then is all the subsequent films, the yellow, the magenta, and the cyan, get stripped to the main image by looking at it and putting it in position. Now I'm 68 years old now, and I swore in 1987 I would never strip another film again in my life. So when I started back up with this about 8 years ago, I was doing it, but now I have young assistants that work with me that actually do this film stripping. The trick is with registration is to lean over from the center and then put the second and have a punch bar up here, and you put the secondary punch bar on the pins, right? And then you take, now this one's already been stripped because I'm working on it right now, but there you see the secondary punch, and then you physically put it in place, and it's actually quite easy to do. It's just that it's a pain in, it's looking into a light box, which I don't like doing. So once again, I get younger people to do this for me. And it's just a matter of registering it up and then taping the secondary film. Now, a lot of people eyeball registration when they're doing prints. I like having all my film pre-registered so that when I'm doing a job, the last thing I want to be doing is physically registering a film to a printed piece of paper, because then it's already coated, so you got to put the paper on a light box, you're shining light through, and you're sitting there trying to register. I don't like that idea. I like having everything registered in advance. So these pins that are here, these 1, 2, 3, the circular, the oblong, and the oblong are actually in the printer. So we have the same pins. So when you punch the paper, you pencil it out, and that's what we're going to show in future videos, how to make these prints. But it's really the key to good registration is a stripping table like what you see. Okay, so this is my coating area. It looks a little bit like a mess, but I do this on purpose. I like these papers to turn out to eventually be backdrops for me, so I love the fact that they just get all the crap from working over time. I use Eppendorf pipettes for my measuring platinum palladium. Palladium being at 200 US for 25 mils, it works out to about $7 million Canadian. So I'm very critical about my measurement, and pipettes do it for me. I don't know how people count drops out. So, you know, if I'm doing a 30 by 40 print, platinum palladium, it's a lot of material, so I can't imagine sitting there on the noble metals, counting out drops and then going to the ferric oxalate and going to them. So anyways, I use pipettes for measuring. I use 2 Richardson brushes. This one has been with me for probably since 1998, but it's been getting a lot of use in the last 8 years. So I was doing platinum palladiums with my best friend Mark, and we were doing platinums back in the mid to late 90s, but the reality is we had to use camera film, FP4, to make the negatives. It was really expensive, and we couldn't really sell a print because it had to, you know, it was up into $1,000 for a 1620. And at that time, you know, other than stochastic negs, which I don't like, number one, I don't like stochastic negs. I can see them as, everybody's using them. I understand they like them. People like them, but to me, I can see the stochastic pattern a mile away. Maybe others can't, but I do. So I don't use stochastic film. So for me, with digital negatives in the, you know, late 2009, 2010, Ron Reeder came, and he was a great help to us. Paulette and I, we got Ron in here to Toronto on many occasions, and Sandy King came up. And, you know, between Ron and Sandy King, they helped me, or they mentored me in the ability to make digital negatives. So I have to credit both those gentlemen. Ron sadly has passed away, but Sandy is still kicking down there in South Carolina. But they were the guys that helped me and were not afraid to give information to me. And I think this is one of the reasons why I do these videos, because I've had good people like them willingly pass off all their knowledge, you know. So, you know, Richardson brushes are really good. The trick of a Richardson brush, or a brush, and it took me a while to figure it out, is that fine line. So you glide the material on, and then you let the material sink into the paper. So that's to me the only secret of brushing it. So when you say you do brush work on platinum palladiums, there's a reason people went to coating rods, because the coating rod just lets the material sit on the paper and then it sinks in. So when I do brush work, I just get the material all over the paper, and then it sinks, and then with the very lightest touch, I will glide the tip of this brush on the paper just to smooth it out. And hopefully, if we have our humidity set at 50%, which it is, it sinks in very, very nicely into the paper. I use these pipettes, and I have a huge stockpile of them here, different sizes. This is for when you get into the real small measurements. I use these syringes, or my syringes, to use when I'm measuring gum pigment, gum bichromate, and the ammonium. So, you know, when we're mixing, we always mix into a container. We're using pigments, then ammonium dichromate, which we match to the pigment load, and then we use gum, and I have different ratios for gum. So, very important workstation. It's humidity controlled and it's temperature controlled, and it's what I like to do. And I use this metal bedpan to hold my materials when I'm coating. So I will, you know, if I'm doing gum, I'll just have a big layer and I'll just brush it out, you know, on the paper. And once again, with gum and gum bichromate, I like to put a nice layer over the whole paper and then just glide it on, and then it sinks in, and it's a nice coating. So that's basically it. I have, over time, I started calculating the image size versus how many mils it took, and you know, if you multiply the numbers, you end up with a number, and that equals 2,300 mils. So whenever you get a number close to there, it's 2,300 mils. And over time, I start calculating with different clients. For example, Terry Morrissey 1218 at 50% is 1,500 milliliters of palladium and ferric oxalate each. For my big prints, it's 8,000 mils. So it's 8,000 of palladium, 8,000 of ferric oxalate, and that's quite a large amount. So these measuring devices are important to me. And I have this little interesting little device which you put the tube in here, you push it off, and it's like squeezes out. It's interesting. Okay, so that's my coating area. Okay, so part of having a dim room, dark room, you need to have, you know, storage of different things. And what I like buying are these U-line shelving units that are portable. They move. You can move them around easily. They're easy to put together, and they're very, very, very good to have in a space where you have to be a bit modular. I have a hot water system on the building here that was put in by the owner of the building so that we could have constant hot water. It's really helpful when you need hot water in a quick piece. I try to really be careful with water. The one nice thing about platinum, palladium, and gum bichromate is very little water use after, because most of it's just sitting in the water and then the stuff coming off. So I like having the water system really well. One of the most critical parts is this unit back here. It's an online system on my water system that it produces humidity, and there's a little controller there. So I can keep the humidity in my dim room at 50% or 40% year round, and that's critical for platinum palladium. It's not so critical for gum, but I find paper likes to react when it's got moisture in it. So, you know, I try to keep the place 40% and above. In the summer, it gets very humid in Canada, in Toronto. So, you know, a lot of us on the east coast of North America are well aware of the humidity drop and the humidity raise in the summer. And on November 16th, we know that it's dropping to a critical point. Like, it goes extremely dry, and if you don't, your prints will start looking grainy. They will not look proper. You'll use uneven amounts of chemistry, and you'll wonder what the hell's going on. And so humidity control is critical. We have a system here for ventilation. So we vent out the room when we're using silver, gelatin, fix, and all that kind of thing. And then back here we have a air heating system that keeps the temperature in this space down here year round at 68 to 70 degrees year round. And that makes it very comfortable to work in, but it also it's good for consistency in printing. On this shelf, you'll see a lot of chemicals that I use. I used to use a company called Nymoc in Canada. They're no longer here. Right now, I use a gentleman by the name of Jacques Brodeur, and he's out of Quebec province. His company's called Argentex, and so now I'm buying a lot of my stuff from Jacques. So not everything, but a lot. And I like to buy in bulk, and I like to mix from bulk. I do buy selenium toner from, you know, commercial grade, and every once in a while I always have a package of D76, a package of Hypoclear always kicking around, so that in emergencies I've got what I need. But I like to mix my own chemistries in most cases. There's, you know, rapid fix just doesn't make any sense to mix. It's probably more expensive and more troublesome to make a rapid fix for silver, but all my alternative printing is all mixed. Everything is custom mixed, and if I wanted to, I could custom mix my developers for the silver. So that's kind of the that concludes the equipment. I'm going to now talk about the pigments. Okay, so to end on the dry side, I think the most important part of what I do is the gum bichromate mixing and color. And it always amazes me that people are making prints these days, and they're into alternative printmaking, but they don't understand color theory. And it's almost shocking to me that when I meet most photographers and I ask them, you know, simple things like what two colors make up the complementary color of red, which is a funny kind of question to ask somebody, their eyes glaze over. It's like, I have no idea. And you know, when I started, it was drilled into us, the color ring around, the color wheel. And there's a further wheel outside, but I stick with the basics. But with what we're doing in gum bichromate, so, you know, I've seen also on the internet, people teaching courses in color to photographic people learning how to do this, and they're talking about the Munsell system, which is for painters. It's not what we're doing here. So yes, the Munsell system is great to understand pigments, and it would be a real big bonus if you went to art college and you learned how pigments work and mix and paints. But for photographers, that's not part of our vocabulary. It's mostly this photographic color wheel that Kodak will provide you and the theory behind it. So I'm always putting this chart in any work area that I work with. Even when I'm doing Photoshop, I'll draw the circle so I know when I want to put something cool behind a warm or warm behind a cool. I want to know what I'm doing with color balance. And I think, you know, when you want to separate people on their abilities, you know, like there are, as we know, in North America, about 100,000 master inkjet printers, and they're on every corner. They set up an inkjet printer in their offices, in their framing shops, and frankly, most of them have no clue about color. But because technology has gotten so far, I mean, this video is being recorded on an iPhone right now, and the color's not bad. There's nothing to be done because we've got to a point in technology where everything's being white balanced to death. This is a red shirt, obviously, blue hat, you know, neutral, and then you can see it's yellow. I mean, back in the day, we had to color correct it to get to this value, but now it's automatic. But then there's pushing beyond, and pushing beyond is where I feel creates your vision and your palette that you want to use. Okay, so when I say palette, I'm talking generally about the paper you use, the pigments you're using, the water that's in your system. We all have, as gum printers and color printers, have different palettes that we work with. Don't confuse this with profiles for an inkjet paper. That's a whole different can of worms. It's the same thing, but it's different. Here we create our own palettes. So when I started doing gum, I was using Daniel Smith yellow, magenta. I started with, from some of the books I read, I was recommended to use phthalo blue green shade for cyan. And I did for about 2 years. And I always wondered why my prints were staining. And then I started looking at the tubes and I started researching into the codes on all the pigments, and it started becoming apparent that I didn't know what I was doing. And so I started really looking at the tubes and understanding what the ratings meant. So there's ratings of light fastness, opacity, transmission, and granularity, and staining. So it turned out the phthalo blue, green shade, Daniel Smith, though it's very light fast and it's very transparent, it has a high staining level. So then I switched immediately, thinking of color theory. I mixed viridian green and cobalt blue, which you see here. Green and blue, equal amounts equals cyan. And so I switched to that for my tricolored gums for a while. And then came along a guy by the name of Calvin Greer out of Spain, and he makes his own version of pigments. And they're CMY, and they're in a paste. You can buy them in tubes. They got what's called a blue wool scale of 8, which apparently is really shit hot. You know, I trust Calvin, and they're transparent. They're very light fast, and I found these to be really good. The Calvin's pigments for tricolor on top of a palladium. Now they're finicky. You have to do your homework. You have to figure out how to mix them properly. I'm not going to go into that. I'll let Calvin tell you how to do that, but they are you need to learn how to work with them. So I was using sepia and burnt umber a lot, and India blue. So this side of my pigment chart is for when I'm doing single neg but multiple hits. So I'll lay down a layer of sepia, which is flesh tone maybe. I'll then put a blue over top, which is a complementary color, and I'll let the sepia come out of the blue. And I do that a lot, and it's a lovely look. Then Calvin came out with a black. And I have to tell you, I still am on the fence about his black. I haven't worked with it enough. So to date, which is like in April 5th or so, 2021, I'm not sold on the black yet. But I will tell you what I am sold on is his flesh. It's a burnt sienna, which he calls a flesh. This is a wicked pigment, because I find this is an absolute healing pigment. So I use this as the 5th color on a lot of my work. And it fills in the gaps for me beautifully. And, you know, I can't explain it more than that. It's an incredible little pigment to be using, and it's gorgeous. So I'm very concerned about the colors I'm using. I just because I'm using Calvin's pigments, I haven't given up on the Daniel Smiths. I use them when I feel I want them, you know. And you know, the cobalt blue I use a lot. So pigments are very, very important. Understanding your color chart, which images are opposite colors, which are the warm colors, which are the cool colors, and how do you mix two together. So what is magenta and blue equal? Purple, right? So, you know, a yellow and a red is kind of an orange. So, you know, you start layering deeper, and it will help you in Photoshop when you're separating the colors, or when you're got a color image and you need to take color out to add color back in when you get to this stage. It's important to know this. And it really surprises me that people that are doing color work don't understand color theory. And I think it's like color theory, lighting are two of the most important issues in photography. The light that hits it and the color theory behind how the light hits the color and we see color and how color modulates and works. So that's it for this part of it. So here's the last part of the dry area. I've got hanging wires. I just use regular picture wire hung between two posts, and I use these film clips, and I also use these wood clothesline pegs. These clips are more stronger. These I like because you just pull and the print comes off. This work is Brendan Meadows. It's the show coming up at the Cardinal for Contact Photo Festival. I'm in the yellow stage, obviously. So I've done the palladium, and now we've did the one coat, and it's drying. It's still damp. But what you can see here, which is interesting, is, and this is interesting for printmakers if you're going to do this as a living, as I have been doing. In this style of work, which is gum over palladium, gum over cyanotype, cyanotypes, palladiums. I mean, palladiums are a little bit stable. I cannot repeat the same image ever. So there's subtle differences in everything. And I don't even try to say I'm going to match 10 prints in a row. It's impossible in my book. So in this case, Brendan wanted me to make 4 images. And so I actually made 5. So he'll pick the best 5 that he 4 he likes. We'll either rip up the last one, or I probably rip up the last one. I have sample prints that I like, but I like them to be printer proofs and a lot smaller. It's a bit bigger than what I really want as printer proofs these days. But this is an example of the palladium with 1 layer of yellow. And tomorrow I'll switch to magenta, and then the next day I'll switch to cyan, and it'll become a full color image. But this is the end of the dry side. So I've split the whole room into dry, coating, paper, handling, and then the other side, which we'll see, is all wet.